Today I'm doing a spotlight on a company called Terra Alterna and their product, the Maera Gazetteer. And it's a 5e core rulebook for their little island, and I want to take a look at it with you. We're going to interview the creator, and I want to show you the trailer to start with. So here we go.
Breaking the surface of a vast ocean. An island awaits your discovery. Explore a new setting that can drop into your existing campaign. Or stand on its own. New class options, character origins, and backgrounds for players. New towns, locales, and wilderness areas. New creatures to challenge players. Welcome to the island of Maera.
So I was lucky enough that Ben sent me this to have a look at. Ben Holsclaw, who we're going to be interviewing soon. And with it being a 5e adventure, we know how to play 5e, pretty much. So this is their island of Maera. Plenty of room to have fun. So in here we have an introduction talking about the island itself and religion, the cultures. It goes into the cities, which I think is really good, and has little maps which we'll look at sort of. And then player options are here. Backgrounds available, some spells. It has all sorts in. A bestiary, lovely art as you will see. Crews and hordes tables, creating adventures, the setting. Here we have the introduction itself. Talks about the deities. So in addition to its local gods, Maera is home to a group of beings called the Atwa, meaning God who walks the world. I was interested in the forlorn, twisted mixes of demonic humanoid and animal forms. It talks about the inhabitants, the factions, cities and regions, which literally has maps worked out. That's really useful. And the markers, the numbered markers are then explained. Plus we have a people of note section for every town that they've done in this book. Another map, and this is just repeated. Player options. Got these Armel, like bear people. Alarian Dragonborn. These are like descended from Algengloin, how do you pronounce it? Orc. Stormfair. Then we have other playable bits and bats. Just seems really confidently put together. Very impressed. Mad casting stood out to me. Look at that art. Purple Ash Wizard. The historian background here. Purple Ash Agent. I do ask about the Purple Ash things. Some new spells. I mean, it's just the work that's gone into it is very impressive. The section that is useful to me. I do enjoy looking at monster stats. When you've got something new to throw at your players, it's really exciting. And what I do like with these big dragons, they actually have lair maps for each of them, which is so useful. Look at these curse bearers. Challenge 2, but they just look original. Magic Elemental, Sorrow Gazers with these great expressions down here. Then in Crews and Hordes you get these tables for creating characters, NPCs and what have you. Fighter, the Rogue, Cleric, Wizard, Goblin, Gnoll, Skeleton, Zombie. Then even a section about creating adventures. Throws you a little bit of a bone here about what to put in your adventure. There's a few of these and they're just, yeah, brilliant. Just a well put together piece of entertainment for us. And so here we go. Here's my conversation with Ben. And here I am with the creator, Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for coming on. All right, so this project, the Maera Gazetteer, give me a rundown of who you are and what the project is.
Okay. Well, I'm as far as my gaming background, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was about 7. Older brother kind of brought it in, and that was back in the AD&D days, so early 80s, and played for a while. Had some space in between. Played a little more in college, and had some more space in between, and then my son got old enough to start playing it and started playing it again when 5e came out. So a lot of advanced D&D second edition, kind of some space there where I was more playing it on PC than anything else, and then really 5e hit it a little bit heavier when my kid and friends' kids started playing it too. And I've always liked creating stuff, so did a couple of just test runs of, hey, I wonder if I could write an adventure, and then put those up on DM's Guild, and had some pretty good success with one of them, and then was asked to write an adventure for some friends that were printing 3D minis, and the adventure was going to go along with those, and that kind of fell through. But by the time that fell through, I had written 3 or 4 adventures and thought, there's something here that I think I could do more with, and that was really where Maera became a setting that I really wanted to start working on. I ended up I'm lucky enough to work in a different segment of gaming. I work in the I work in video poker, actually, and so I have an artist that his art's amazing, and I thought, well, I'll ask him if he wants to do some art for this, and after he tells me no, I'll figure out what to do, and he said yes. So that was great, and you've seen his art because it's Dan's art's in the book, and he's amazing. And then I sort of recruited one of the guys that was in our group as an editor because he's really good with the mechanics. He's got some good content stuff to add, and that's how the 3 of us became the group that put this book out. As far as professional background, like I said, I work in for wager gaming, and have an anthropology degree and a business degree. So kind of a strange combination, but seems to work out well. And I think the anthropology seemed to serve me well as I was putting the book together, because I took it from a standpoint of, okay, you put a city here in the map. Why is it here? What are those people doing? How are they surviving, and things like that? And that stuff was really fun to flesh out. So that's kind of how we got going. And a few years later, we have the Gazetteer, which is the main book of the setting, and that's out now, and we're working on finishing up playtesting on the campaign that we're gonna hopefully turn into the second book along the Maera product line.
So that's fantastic. Yeah, the art, as you mentioned there, the cover particularly, and throughout, it's beautiful. I really like it. So how do you start projects like this? Where do you begin?
So this project really started with that first adventure. It was, hey, let's do something that somebody as a beginner DM could come in and have an easy time running. So it's really generic. It is, hey, I needed a town, so I had a town, and this town has like 5 buildings in it, and it's a tiny community of 10 or 15 people, and to make it simple for a DM to operate. And it's attacked by goblins, and then at the end of the first adventure, you end up with this item that will be in the campaign, and you spend the whole, or a lot of the rest of the campaign, trying to figure out what it is and why you found it. And that's kind of where it started. And I had no idea what the item was going to be, what the significance of it was. I just thought, hey, let's put some weird thing in there, and let's move on forward from that. And then as you're trying to solve the problems of why did it land with the adventurers, how did they get there, and what the heck is it, a lot of the details start to fill themselves in on the side. And then you sort of, you create all these other problems of, well, now this part doesn't work with the story, so now I need to change and do some maneuvering there. So it was really, really interesting process. The first time I'd ever gone through it in that level of depth. And but what came out as a side effect was this setting, which I think we've been playing in it for about 2 years now, and it's very fun. It's become pretty rich as far as each town's got its own kind of modus operandi, and gets along in different ways, and yeah, it's just been a lot of fun.
So yeah, have you got advice for people going into game building? Then is it easy? It sounds like it was easy for you.
I don't know that it was easy. I think the best advice that a friend gave me years ago was just do a little bit of it every day. Don't go a week without doing anything, because then you'll go months without doing anything. Even if it's 5, 10, 15 minutes, go in and do something just to keep it front of mind. And you're going to go through creative ebbs and flows, and that's probably the best advice that I've received for like a long-term project like this, because it's not my day job. So wanting to get it done, I really needed to motivate myself. And one of the things I did was I cut back on some video games that I was playing, and suddenly I had more time. So, make it a priority, make it something that you really want to do if you really want to do it, and be willing to, kind of write some horrible stuff that you look at and go, this is no good. But then maybe there's one piece of it that you can take and kind of develop on that, and then suddenly things start to come together.
Yeah. Is it right? There's 20 player options, I seem to count, inside. There's quite a lot of new stuff to be, isn't there?
Yeah, we did a couple of like race or species options, but I think where we had a lot of fun was when we made the class pass. We did one for each of the classic classes, and we've had a lot of fun playtesting those too. And on top of that, we've done some spells, and some of those spells integrate with some of those path options quite nicely. And yeah, that was a lot. And that actually started based on, I had come up with the druid path that was in there. That was the first one, and thought, yeah, it'd be pretty cool to have a druid that could, instead of doing a wild shape that turns into an animal, how about he turns into a tree? Yeah. And kind of harkening back to Treebeard, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I actually played that in a Forgotten Realms campaign and was like, this is pretty cool. What if we did? Let's start looking at the other ones. And that was really when I brought brought Damien, the editor, in, and we talked about it and said, could we do one for each class? And as we started working through it, a couple of them have some humor in them, and a couple of them are like deadly serious. And I think we turned out a pretty good variety of options for people to play. Yeah,
there's the Armel, the bear people, if that's how you say it.
Yes.
Was it around before, or did you invent that?
I remember hearing, like, when I was younger, bears referred to as like the people of the forest, which I thought was a really cool concept. I know people have done anthropomorphic bears before, but this was just kind of my take on it. Just sort of being more or less, you are a bear, but you can talk, and you can, you can sort of manipulate items and things like that.
Yeah. So, and you have the Storm Fae as well.
Yeah. That one came a little bit from nowhere. I was thinking about the environment on the island of Maera, where we've got it's a small island, but there are some unexplored areas because the mountainous areas get pretty inhospitable and are hard to travel. And I thought, some sort of humanoid that was in that environment that doesn't necessarily associate with all of the other civilized areas as much, kind of isolated and having some sort of Fey ancestry. So I started to look at, okay, well, you have elves, obviously, and then what could we do with an elf and kind of morph it into something cooler? And so you end up with these Storm Fae that, instead of having hair, they have patterns of horns on their heads, and their skin, really their sort of weather influence. You'll see a lot of weather influence within the campaign setting itself too. So I thought, well, we can give them a little character feature that allows them to do something with the weather that's not too overpowered, hopefully. And then, because they're so influenced by the weather, let's make their skin the color of whatever the sky is at the time that they're in it. So it's kind of how that came together.
Yeah. One other note I made was the Forlorn, the demon, human-y animal people. They're not playable, though.
They are not. So the original plan for this was to release the campaign and the campaign setting at the same time. And I don't want to spoil too much, but there may be some Forlorn in the campaign.
Yeah.
And when we got, this was about, I think, late 2021, early 2022, Wizards started talking about, in 2024 we're going to have another iteration on D&D, and that was before any of the OGL stuff started really getting going. But I thought, well, as slow as the three of us move, because there are only three of us, maybe we just, let's get the setting out and then figure out, after any changes that Wizards makes, and obviously a lot's going on between then and now. So we really wanted to get the setting out first, and I did really want to have that as part of the first go at it. But now they're kind of out there for anybody that buys the book and wants to create them on their own. They can certainly do that. And then with luck, in the next 8 to 12 months, we'll be releasing our take on them too.
Yeah, I look forward to a campaign, because it's a great book.
Oh, thank you.
You've got already. I mean, you've got the games of Maera bit, and the three goblins with actually ways to play the games within the game. The 3 dice rolling. It's almost like playing a card game, isn't it? But with dice.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a distraction from playing D&D, but it's really something I'm really into. That you can actually play a game while you're playing the game.
The most ridiculous thing. So we're running the campaign, and there's an underground casino where the players are supposed to go and get some intel, and they go down to the casino, and I've been playing with these guys for a long time, and I figured, well, they're pretty straight to the point most of the time. And they get into the casino and they go, I want to step up to one of the tables, and I think, I don't have any games.
Yeah.
And so 3 goblins was, what can I do really quickly? Okay, boom, boom, boom. Let's figure this out. Okay, yeah, you're rolling 3 dice, and then you have to save one, and you can re-roll 2 of them, and then we played that for about an hour and a half, and they made a killing on it. They were rolling well, and they ended up with more gold than any party should be allowed to have. But it was great. And then I thought, yeah, okay, we just found something else that we can add to this that'll add a little bit more depth to the culture, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, and you've also got like card games and stuff in there as well. So later on in the book, cities and regions, you have like pages of actual city maps, and then they're all numbered and what's in there. I mean, that's going really good. That's a good step in the right direction. I think Wizards should do more things like that. And I think it's a good idea. What brought that?
I guess I was thinking about some of the older, the really old adventures where they really had, like, they would have encounters numbered out for you, but sometimes you would get to a town and you would have just more of a detailed map that says, this is where the city hall is, this is where the shop is, or whatever. And I've always really liked that style. I like being able to see all of the buildings in a city if I can. So I just kind of went that direction with the maps, and that's how they ended up.
It looks like a headache though, because it's that much, creating everything for the map of it, and then all the things in it. It looks like, that's work.
It's fun work though. And where I did take a little bit, I sloughed off a little bit and I did want to leave open options for people to develop into. Is you'll notice that the important people in each town, they aren't very fleshed out. They're there for the DM to flesh out themselves and play in whatever manner they want to.
So I know something else I noticed was the Knights of the Purple Ash are like undead people.
Yes.
Tell me about those, because they seem very new.
Yeah, so going back into the history of how this island got to be where it is today, I've got a set of deities that don't really interact personally with the people on it. And then I've got this other group called the Atwar, which they are super powerful beings. Some of them are dragons. One is like a forest spirit, and they interact a little bit more directly. And prior to that, in them coming to power, or maybe while they were in power, I wasn't really clear about that, I guess, in the book, but there was a wizard that became the first undead on the island, and this would have been back when the gods were a little bit more involved, and this wizard becomes a lich and really offends Bile, who is the god of the dead, and basically it's an affront to his existence because he's cheated death. And to punish him and the people that helped him become a lich, he creates the Forlorn, which becomes sort of a mistake. He intends to kind of destroy them, and what he does is creates these demons, the Forlorn. But the flip side of that is the lich doesn't get punished, and the lich becomes an undead figure that kind of propagates himself, creates more undead beings. And then because the Forlorn was such a problem for the civilization, while they were dealing with that problem, the undead were kind of slowly building their own strength. And what they ultimately did was took the city of Dewburn, which is in the southwest corner of the island. And that's how that is today. So the Purple Ash is sort of this pseudo-legitimate undead organization that's now in a treaty where they've agreed, hey, anybody that's not Purple Ash, that's undead, we will help destroy. But if you come after us, there will be consequences, and they've got some safeguards in there to protect themselves.
Yeah. Excellent. Love it.
Thanks.
So new spells. You've got a lot of new spells. I imagine that would be one of the hardest things for me. How was it for you?
It was tough. There's a lot of magic already out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, we took a couple of the things that we did was just stuff that's come up in play in the past for us that would be like, hey, that would have been cool to do. Because this is an island, I think one of my favorite spells when I was writing it is a spell called the Arms of the Deep, where I thought, yeah, this is going to be like some magical octopus spell where you have tentacles that come out of your hand and they can do all these powerful things. And then I actually went and I looked up some of the things an octopus tentacle can do. And the result of the spell is really pretty much just what a real octopus can do because it's so crazy. So I learned a lot while I was making that spell, because they can, obviously they can grip stuff with it, but they can smell, they can taste, they can do, just amazing things. So it was that was a good one. We had a lot of back and forth about how powerful we should make these spells, though, because magic is where you're essentially breaking rules that are there otherwise, and so it's really easy to make them more powerful. We had a lot of discussion around the spell called Ripple, which should that the effect of that is basically, as a reaction, you can reduce incoming damage by 1d4. And we talked about, should that be a cantrip, should that be a level 1 spell? Ultimately we settled on a cantrip because you can only do it one round, once per round anyway. Yeah. And didn't think it was quite at the level 1 level. It may be overpowered. I don't really think it is, because it's a nice little thing to have for a wizard that's got 8-10 hit points to be able to try to keep alive a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense for wizards, surely. Yeah. So along with the city maps and the games, all the new things playable, I mean, you got a bestiary in there as well. Bestiary, I suppose it's called. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, so you tell me the pronunciation of Algian Gloin Challenge 23 monster.
Aegean Gloina, yeah. This is one of the Atwar, one of the really powerful beings. This is started out kind of as a combination between a silver and a blue dragon, and then ended up being an aquatic or sort of amphibious character. And then some of the mythology about bringing Dragonborn onto the island revolves around her. But yeah, this is that was a fun one to kind of do, just a tweak on the classic, like one of the other Atwar is just a plain old ancient white dragon, pretty much. But yeah, that character has some control over the weather, is the matron of one of the cities on the island, and really some of the story around some of the campaign, she'll be in it. But yeah, that's kind of how I came up with that one. It was just a morph a little bit.
I'm always drawn to the the biggest monsters in new books. Do you know what I mean? For some reason, my son's the same. And again, great artwork. I'll put it on the screen. Malleus.
Yep.
Comes with they all come with layer maps as well, which again you seem to like turn all the dials up to 12 on these things, like everything you need. You know, it's so handy.
Yeah, I really wanted to be able to do that. I knew that the adventures I was writing were the campaign's going to go from level 1 to 10. It's not going to go completely epic, but I did want to have epic opportunities for people if they wanted to take those. So you do have, with the majors, you've got like the 3 major dragons. You've got their lairs in there. You've got this Korirth, this forest spirit, which is a pretty powerful entity, and really counts this entire forest area as their lair. And then you've got this, kind of steroided up frost giant that might be the son of one of the gods. That's another one, and he's got this his area that is in the mountains. And I just really wanted people to be able to have an opportunity to say, okay, most of the creatures in here you've got they're CR 1/4 to, I don't know, 8 or 9, and I did definitely want to have some biggies to throw in there.
Well, even all the small ones, you're looking at the pictures and you're like, what is that? And it might be challenge 2, but you're like, just the effort that's gone into even the small stuff. It's so everyone loves new monsters. You want to surprise your players. Then you go further. You've got a magic elemental. That looks really cool.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Yep.
Crews and hordes tables to help DMs create the NPCs and stuff. Tell me about that choice.
Yeah, so this is it's kind of a tool that I've been using as a DM that I decided I really liked. So I thought I'd include it in the book. I'd love for feedback from anybody on if it's useful to them, because we're going a little bit farther into them with a publication between the two, where I'm going to do more options and higher levels on those. But how many goblins have you encountered in your adventures, right? How many gnolls have you encountered in your adventure? And to be able to throw in, somebody gets a great hit against the goblin and it doesn't go down, and suddenly it's like, oh wait, this isn't a normal goblin.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of throw those little curveballs at people when they're playing. The players that I play with have been playing a very long time, so being able to put in things that seem familiar that are unfamiliar is a really great thing, because then you can get into an encounter where you're like, oh, we are going to crush these guys, and then suddenly, wait, this is a fight, and maybe I wasted a spell slot or 2 that I shouldn't have, and now we have to actually figure out how to get through this. So those are the reasons I wanted to do it. But for me, they're quick reference while we're playing. I actually, since COVID, I run a lot of spreadsheets because we've been doing a lot more online, and I can just pull it up and have just very, very quick reference and just kind of let it go from there. Yeah.
So is this your first project, or have you done things? I know you've just said DM's Guild.
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
This was the first Kickstarter. Yep. And we were pretty happy with it. It didn't do tens of thousands, but we set a pretty low goal. We didn't need to make a ton of revenue to cover our costs, and manufacturing books is frankly expensive, so we didn't make a lot of money off of it. But it was nice. We figured nobody knew who we were anyway, so we'll see what we get, and we got a pretty decent response. And the feedback we've been getting so far has been not a ton, but it's all been pretty good. So that's been a good experience. It was a great learning experience though, and probably enough to figure out maybe a few things we could do a little differently to try to get better results next time, and hopefully establish some following.
I think it's a really strong start. To look at that as your first product, I think that bodes well for the future. So what have you got, in your distant plans? You've got a campaign book, but have you got your future planned out?
So yeah, and it kind of depends on how fast we can move. So we are finishing testing on the campaign. I said that was going to be the second book, but I kind of misspoke there, because we are going to do an intermediate one where we've written an adventure to do to go with a book that's an expanded version of the Crews and Hordes, where we'll take in the Maera Gazetteer, we took it up to 5 tiers, and we had options for like the basic, a fighter type, a cleric type, wizard and rogue, and then we had goblins and gnolls and skeletons and zombies. We're going to add a lot more creatures, a lot more of the like NPC type options, and then I wrote an adventure for that's going to be for level 10. So I'm actually going to run that one with my group after we finish the campaign, which we're just about to finish up, and then so that'll come out. That will actually probably release before the campaign. But then over the next, I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we're ready to release the campaign. We've got ideas for a second island that we're percolating on. And we also play Call of Cthulhu on the side. And Chaosium really recently said, hey, we can, they kind of put out on through RPG that they were looking for more content. So we're going to probably release an adventure with the Cthulhu setting too. So like super busy, probably a little over ambitious, but it's a good way to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That sounds cool. That sounds like a great place to be for yourself.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to mention that we've not covered in our little chat?
So the Maera Gazetteer is available on drive-thru-RPG today. You can go on there and take a look at it. If you want to see some of my older work, which has way less cool art, DM's Guild, I have an adventure called The Ancient Relic of Nethril, which it is the start of a trilogy. So if you get that one seems to be pretty popular. And if you get that, you can find the other 2 if you decide to continue on those. So yeah, just some stuff out there, and any support, any feedback, I would love to hear it. And definitely appreciate being on.
Well, thanks for coming on, Ben. It's an absolutely fantastic product.
Oh, thank you so much.
So check it out, guys.
All right. Thanks, Chris.